What is Oregon going to be in 2026? That's one of my questions. What is Oregon going to be? Start off with the offense. Start off with Dante Moore. Dante Moore is one of the biggest reasons Oregon is viewed as a national championship contender, in my eyes. Because Dante Moore is returning as a very experienced guy, as a very experienced quarterback, and he's kind of viewed as the centerpiece of this Oregon team. He's viewed as a guy that should contend for the Heisman again. When I say again, I mean like contend for the Heisman. I guess he necessarily wasn't very high in the Heisman race last year, but he should contend for the Heisman. He should be a 3,000 plus yard passer. He should be a top player in college football. Like, all these things should be what Dante Moore is in 2026. And I'm really high on Dante Moore. Don't get me wrong. I'm very high on him. But when I look at Oregon and I look at Dante Moore, I see not a lot of questions, which is a good thing, because I just did Texas's preview. If you're not watching if you're just watching this clipped video and not the full show, I suggest you watch the full show and the clipped video. But when you look at Texas, they have questions about Arch Manning. They got a lot of questions about Arch Manning, what he's going to be. You don't have that with Oregon and Dante Moore. You have more of, okay, we saw what Dante Moore was last year. He was a really good quarterback. Can we get that same Dante Moore, basically? Maybe slightly better. So we don't have a lot of questions about Dante Moore. He enters 2026 as a veteran quarterback, returns to the same offense, new offensive staff with Will Stein gone, but still returns to the same team. So can he continue what he did in 2025? Dante Moore, I'm really high on him. I think he's going to be a Heisman finalist. I think all these attributes that he has, he's got excellent arm talent. He's got high-level accuracy. He's experienced in a major offense. He's ability to make big plays downfield. He's mobile. He's a very mobile quarterback. Those are all things I wrote down about Dante Moore, and they were all true. Like, he can do all those things. He is a phenomenal quarterback. He's great at making plays. So I'm really high on Dante Moore, and I think he's going to be the centerpiece of this offense, and Oregon goes as Dante Moore goes. So do with that what you will, but I think that when I look into it, that's how I see it. I think Oregon goes as Dante Moore goes. So there we go. That is kind of my Dante Moore overview. My last thing with Dante Moore, my biggest question, I guess, is can Dante Moore become the quarterback who finally gets Oregon over the top? That's my question that I'm going to leave you guys with. I'll kind of answer it for me, but I want you guys to answer that. Do you think Dante Moore is the quarterback who finally gets Oregon over the top, over the hump, to the national championship? You can go ahead and answer that right now. I'm going to give you my answer here in a second. I think he is. That could come as a shock. That could come as an obvious answer. But I think he's the guy and the quarterback that is going to get Oregon over the top into the national championship. Because I think Oregon's going to have a really good shot to make the national championship. I'm not going to call my shot now. I'm going to have a playoff prediction here video coming out very soon. So I'm not going to call my shot now. But I will say, I think he's going to be the guy that gets Oregon over the top in 2026. So I'm super high on Dante Moore. What about the running back room for Oregon? Let's dive into that real quick. Oregon has a deep and talented running back room. Very deep, very talented. They have Jordan Davison, who is one of the biggest names to watch in this running back room. The Ducks also have several other talented young running backs who are going to get carries this year. But Jordan Davison is the key guy this year. Davison is a very highly regarded running back. He's a very explosive playmaker. Like, this guy can make plays. He's also a guy that's going to kind of balance this offense out. Because you don't want it to be a pass-heavy offense, that's for sure. And I don't think it will be. I think he'll be a perfect running back to balance between run game and pass game. So I'm very confident in what Jordan Davison's going to do in 2026. So I got a lot of confidence in him. Oregon can't be dependent on Dante Moore. They could, but they don't want to be. Or I'll rephrase that. Oregon doesn't want to be dependent on Dante Moore in 2026. So that's the run game. That's the quarterback position. What about receivers? Because receiver is, this could be one of the most exciting positions for this team. I'm certainly excited about them for names that most people don't really necessarily think about. Because when you think of Oregon's receiver room, your brain instantly goes to De'Corian Moore. It instantly goes to Jeremiah McClellan. It instantly goes to Gatlin Bair. It goes to guys like that. A guy that I think is going to be maybe the best receiver on this team, who I think is a little underrated in 2026, Evan Stewart. That's not a name that's being thrown around in terms of top 5 wide receiver conversations or even top 10 wide receiver conversations. Evan Stewart's not a name being thrown around. You have your Jeremiah Smiths, your Cam Colemans, your Ryan Wingos, your Malachi Tonys, your Mario Cravers, your De'Corian Moores, your Deuce Robinson. You have all those names. Your Ryan Williams. You have all those names. No one's talking about Evan Stewart because, maybe he dealt with injuries and he was up and down with that. And he was, at Texas A&M for a while. He was quiet there. A lot of people are not as high on Evan Stewart. And I'm really high on it. Personally, I am very high on Evan Stewart and what he can do in 2026 and his ability to make plays. Evan Stewart is a playmaker, a downfield playmaker. De'Corian Moore is the guy that you're going to really rely on. He's going to be your guy where you're going to say, we got to get the ball to a play. We got to get a catch here. We got to get a first down. Who we getting the ball to? De'Corian Moore. I think Evan Stewart could do the same thing, though. I think Evan Stewart could be just as good, if not better, than De'Corian Moore. So keep your eye out for him. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. Offensive line for Oregon. Offensive line is not, they're not the absolute best, but they're not the absolute worst. This is one of the biggest areas to watch. Or they have plenty of talent up front, but the Ducks need the offensive line to prove that it can consistently dominate, I guess you could say. Can they consistently dominate enough where they're, freeing up the run game, where they're freeing up, Dante Moore to have time to drop back and throw? We need to get a good year from this offensive line if we want to have success, if Oregon wants to have success offensively or success overall, because their offense isn't working. Then your defense reliant, and then that's where you can't win the shootout games. So we need to have a good offensive line for Oregon this year. And if Oregon wants to win the Big Ten, want to win the national championship, you got to have an offensive line that can stand up against Ohio State, it can stand up against Texas, can stand up against Georgia, can stand up against Miami, Notre Dame. We need to be able to have an offensive line that can withstand injuries. So it needs to be a deep offensive line because there's going to be injuries. You're playing in the Big Ten. You're playing in a run-heavy league. You're playing in a dominant league. You're playing in a league where it's very physical play. So if you have a deep offensive line that has talent, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay if you're Oregon, and you're going to have a good offense. Now we can get to the defensive side of the ball for Oregon, and this is where things get fun. Defensive line, one of the biggest strengths of this roster. The defensive line. Oregon has size, athleticism. They got depth up front, and I'm really excited about it. There's a big name here, Bear Alexander, who appears on their roster after previous stops at Georgia and USC. So Bear Alexander is a guy that I think is going to be just an absolute dog at defensive line. So I'm really high on him as well. The goal for this defensive line, in my opinion, is to create pressure without having to blitz constantly. Can we create pressure on opposing quarterbacks, on opposing run games, without having to blitz linebackers, without having to sub out a corner and put in a linebacker to blitz them? Can we get consistent pressure? That's my biggest goal for Oregon on this defensive line for 2026. Edge rushers, again, going to be about the same thing. It's going to be about the same thing, same task, create pressure without having to blitz. Secondary, this is where things get fun. The Ducks have plenty of athleticism here. I can tell you that for sure. One of my key DBs for this team, Coy Parrish. Watch out for Coy Parrish in 2026. That guy is going to be an absolute dog. He already is an absolute dog, but he's going to be even better. So watch out for Coy Parrish. That guy's going to be insane. Watch out for guys like, we'll just throw out a name here, Xavier Barksdale. Watch out for him. Watch out for all these guys in the secondary who are going to make amazing plays for this Oregon team. This group has the ability to be very good, like very good in 2026, and I think they can be. But my question is against teams like Ohio State and against teams like USC and against top teams like that, Texas and Oregon in the playoffs, can you consistently create turnovers? I think they can. So my microphone almost fell. So I think they can, and I think that they will. So I don't have a ton of concerns there with Oregon. Got rattled there for a second. Microphone fell and it freaked me out. So that is Oregon's team. Now we can jump into their schedule real quick and kind of break down what we're feeling with their schedule here. Starting off with Boise State at home. You got at Oklahoma State. That could be a frisky game. Watch out for the Cowboys, especially with new coach there, new team. Portland State, you have at USC. That's going to be a tough game. Don't overlook USC. Wow, I can't talk. You got UCLA, Nebraska. It's going to be tough games here. Tough games. You got at Illinois. You got Northwestern. At Ohio State. That's going to be a tough game, and those are the games that are really going to test you. The games like USC and Ohio State, both on the road, going to really test you. You got Michigan. Sneaky tough game there. And you end the year with Washington. Washington's going to be a frisky team. Damon Williams is there. So not the easiest schedule for Oregon, but also not the toughest schedule for Oregon. So that's Oregon's 2026 schedule and season and team preview for 2026. If you're an Oregon Ducks fan or college football fan in general, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. College ball year round. We're going to be locked in from now until week 1. So yeah, make sure you are subscribed.